Honestly, I'm just going to be straight up transparent with you, bro. This sucks.
Yeah?
Having to stay home because my parents don't trust that I may or may not catch something. My friends locked down and quarantined, for who knows how long.
Right.
Honestly, and also the loss of the things that we've been, losing, the things that we might not be able to get back.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends, a lot of them are coming back home from colleges.
Yeah.
A lot of them had to, end their freshman year of college early.
Right. Experience they'll never get back.
And I also have friends that aren't going to be able to graduate, even seniors in high school. They're not going to be able to walk down the aisle, and even friends in college who are going off to do greater things. Jonna, what would you say to those people who are, grieving and mourning?
Well, the first thing I'd say to those people is that the reason we're friends is I love how blunt, honest you are, just calling it out like, this sucks. And in all seriousness, like, I think it's good you go there because as Christians, sometimes we could sugarcoat things. You know what I mean? And I've even fallen into this trap of trying to put a bow on top of something.
Right.
But it's so good to just acknowledge, like, we're losing something that we can't get back. Whether that is, if you're moving on from one grade level to the next, you're losing that experience of ending. Maybe it was a spring musical that got canceled or prom got postponed, whatever it is, like, you just have to call it out and, like, it's okay to say that sucks.
Yeah.
But to speak to those people like you asked, I would say one, the Bible talks so much about grief, and this is a great time to practice grief. And just when you go through the levels of grief, one of the things that it talks about, actually the first step, is just acknowledging it and calling it out. You know what I mean? Like, instead of just being in your head about it, instead of just wallowing in it and being sad and frustration, like, you just need to call it out. And maybe that's like journaling it. Maybe that's connecting with a friend and saying it out loud.
Right.
But we just have to call it what it is. And it's okay to go through grief. It's actually biblical. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to put your head in the pillow and scream, whatever it is, without canceling your plan. But I would also say we can't live in grief. We can't stay there forever. So how long are you going to be in grief? I can't answer that question. You know what I mean? Like, you might need an hour, and like, okay, I'm a pretty flexible person. I might need a week, and they're both correct. They're both acceptable in the eyes of God.
Absolutely.
Because every single one of us is wired differently.
Right.
Every single one of us has a different personality, and God made you, and God's not surprised. So if, like, you're grieving longer than maybe a sibling is, that's okay, because God wired you and knows that you need that. So it's good to acknowledge that you're frustrated or your disappointments or whatever it is. Make sure you do that. But like Paul, we can rejoice, and we could have joy despite circumstances. And how did Paul do that? It might be easiest to hear that, okay, he was in jail and had joy, but how do we do that? Paul was able to do that because he had an encounter with the living God. And because he had an encounter with the living God, he was able to go through any circumstances that life threw at him and have peace and have joy. And out of that came fellowship. So, as we're doing that, if you're a follower of Jesus and saying, I'm not feeling that, I know I've for sure gone through seasons like that.
Yeah, man.
Ask for that. God is a good father, and he knows that we're human and we forget things and we make mistakes. Ask God to remind you of that purpose he's put in your life. Ask God to remind you of the value you have as a son of God or as a daughter of God. And ask for God to give you that peace and that joy, and despite being locked into your room, despite your plans being canceled and having a different school experience than you thought. Invite God into that process, and he'll help you have joy.